the world's most aggressive fasting regimen. What is our primary objective in the Flow protocol? Our primary objective is simple: to produce weight loss in a way that alters your hormones to a more favorable scene, which makes it easier for your body to maintain weight for the rest of your life. This is based off of the hormone basis of obesity, which in my opinion is the main thing going on. I don't think it's so black and white. I do think inflammation and many other factors come into play. But at the end of the day, I think it's insulin as the primary driver behind our weight loss woes, our obesity, our difficulty to lose weight, why we lose weight and we put it back on over and over and over, that vicious cycle. And so the primary objective is to handle that. So it's not just the weight loss. Actually, that's a beautiful side effect. But what we're trying to do with the Flow protocol, what we are doing is changing your physiology for the better so that you can maintain the weight for the rest of your life. And that's why this is so sustainable, as a lot of my veterans can tell you and do tell you. Just check out the testimonial videos. Now, let's break down the components of today's presentation for fasting. Since you know what the primary objective is, we're going to talk about the stages of fasting. We're going to talk about how to progress through them. We're going to talk about planning out the schedule for your Flow fasting, the mindset for the first 24-hour fast, things to consider on long fasts, breaking the fast, counting calories, or having an idea of engaging calories on your non-long fasting days, aka how much should I be eating? And then finally, what does our diet need to look like outside of fasting? All right, so the stages of fasting, we have stage 1 as intermittent fasting, stage 2 as 24-hour fasting, and stage 3 as the Flow stage. So intermittent, also known as time-restricted eating. So intermittent fasting essentially is your daily short-term fast. Everything outside of that is considered prolonged, and then stage 1 is intermittent or time-restricted. So for the sake of understanding the language of fasting, we have your eating window and you have your fasting window. That's it. You take your 24-hour period of the day, and for a portion of it you're fasting and a portion of it you're eating. So your eating window is defined as your first calories in and your last calories in. That's your eating window. It's not your first meal and your last meal. It's your first calories and your last calories. So if you are eating a very small, a cup of coffee with some creamer and a small little protein bar, your total calories is 100. That's your first meal. And let's say you eat dinner at 6, but then you have a small little 150 calorie snack afterwards. That's your last meal. So that's the window of eating. And then the rest of the day is your fasting window. Okay. So when we say 16-8 in intermittent fasting, we are talking about 16 hours of fasting and an 8-hour eating window. So intermittent fasting, 2 to 3 meals is the goal. The 1 meal or OMAD, I'm not a fan of, and I'll have separate videos talking about OMAD, but you just run into problems. It's hard to get adequate protein. It's hard to get enough vegetation and phytonutrients, and it's really easy to undereat and actually create a plateau. So I'm not a fan of OMAD, even though I like these stronger rounds of fasting. I just don't like them every single day. Okay, so stage 2 of fasting is your 24-hour stage. So that means breaking that 16-hour fasting window, or that 8-hour eating window, right? Shrinking that to the point where essentially you're just eating 1 meal. So what that looks like is Tuesday night dinner, Wednesday night dinner. That's a 24-hour fast. Now, you don't progress through stage 2 of the Flow protocol until you can do that twice with like a 3-day window. You do that for a week or 2 and you feel like that's doable. That's when you can progress to the 3rd stage. So stage 2, 2 individual 24-hour fasts separated by 3 days. Then we have the Flow stage, which is, that's where you're flowing, guys. That is the goal is a 48-hour fast one time. Say, for example, Tuesday night to Thursday night, that's a 48-hour fast. You do that continual every single week. Once you get to this stage, you are flowing, and that's where the results are flying. Now, progressing through the stages. Simply put, the faster you can get into the Flow stage, the faster you will get the results, guys. Now, This is a very interesting topic because there is no right way or wrong way to do this. Are you a rip the band-aid kind of person, or do you like to slowly peel it off? Ultimately, that's up to you because you all have your own individual mindset and you all have your own comfort level. Now, as long as you understand this, the faster you progress, the faster you will get results, but then the more extreme you will run into roadblocks. I've seen this manifest as not just tiredness and brain foggy, but crankiness, energy swings, all sorts of wild manifestations. But they all come from the body's inability to mobilize the fat fast enough to meet your energy demands. And so I make sure that you understand that because we're talking about how fast do you want to progress yourself through the stages, because that's the name of the game and that's what's going to get the results. And something can be said about the motivation that comes from seeing results fast, especially if you are somebody who's never seen results and you need to see it. There's some motivation to rip the band-aid off. But if you rip the band-aid off and you start bleeding profusely, well, then put the band-aid on, put it back on, right? Like, there's no wrong way to do this. If you are through stage 2 and you've done a 24-hour fast, that's a big jump to go to 48. But go for it. I always say, if you're feeling froggy, then leap. Because if you fail miserably, and by the way, let me rephrase that because there is no failure. If you are far from hitting 48 and you have to stop at 28, well, guess what? That's 4 more hours than 24. So there's no losses in this. This is a mental game. You want to challenge yourself and take note and progress at whatever rate you want to progress at based off of the variables that we just discussed. So let's talk about the mindset. I have a whole separate training that I did, I think it was last week, on mindset. So I'm not going to rehash all of that, but I want to remind you, you're not going to die, okay? You're not going to die from a 24-hour fast. It might seem like that. You're not going to die. It's just a funny thing that I say, but sometimes when you're in the moment and it feels like it, you need to remind yourself that. Understand that there is a lot of positivity from you overriding your body. What do I mean by that? Well, you guys have heard me talk about that. I look at not to get too spiritual, but we are the thing that runs our body. And so our body communicates to us and we communicate to our body. So when our body is freaking out, telling us it needs something, we can override that through consciousness. You make a conscious decision. I know you're hungry, but hey, it's okay. I'm going to eat 4 more hours. Get over it, right? This would be what it looks like talking to yourself. Maybe just don't do it out loud. You can do it in your head, but you're communicating to yourself, right? And so there is a ton of reward, including positive brain chemistry. Literally, dopamine, which is your motivation neurotransmitter. You produce more dopamine when you set a goal and you accomplish it. And fasting at the same time alters your brain chemistry so that increased dopamine that you produce from hitting your goal is also more enhanced because you're more sensitive to dopamine. So there's a huge optimization of brain chemistry, and there's a lot of synergy between setting a goal and targeting it. And last but not least, remind yourself it's going to get easier over time. I promise you. What we need to consider during our long fast as far as supplements and what's allowed, hands down, the most important thing is salt, and that is an electrolyte. And then you have your other non-salt electrolytes, especially during the summer, but I don't care what time of the season it is, you have to have salt. Every 24-hour period of fasting, you should get about a 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, Celtic or pink Himalayan. But if you don't have that, regular salt will do too as well. It's just you get some more trace minerals, micronutrients with the Celtic or pink Himalayan. And then alongside with that, a scoop of your electrolytes. Dr. Berg's is my favorite. I don't care what you get, as long as it's sugar-free and as long as it's sweetened with stevia or monk fruit, it's great in my books. Number 2, we want to keep our normal supplementation going. This isn't super important. One of the amazing benefits of a lifestyle of fasting is your body becomes more efficient at nutrient utilization. Not the macro utilization, which is calories, the micronutrients, which is non-calories. That's your vitamins, that's your minerals, that's all of your phytonutrients. Your body becomes more efficient at utilizing what it has from fasting, which is great, but you don't have that skill yet in the beginning. And so not taking your normal supplements during the long fasting can produce these nutrition deficiencies which will create, for some people, huge roadblocks to their weight loss journeys. And so we have to keep our normal supplementation during fasting. I have separate videos on what I recommend is the core supplements and all the additional recommendations. The number one roadblock is nausea. We have to train our bodies to become able to handle the supplements. And so I do have a separate video on that, but in short summary, we can start off with a small amount of supplements over time, supplements during the fasting window, and increase it till we get comfortable with it. You could take your sugar-free, dairy-free creamer in your coffee along with it. And if you need more, bone broth, fat bombs, soaked chia seeds, even though this is breaking your fast, if that's what you need to acclimate yourself in the early stages to get comfortable with building up tolerance to being able to handle the supplements, then great. By the way, guys, that's how we help really tough hunger barriers as well. Stepping stones and food and fat specifically can be an aid for that. Okay, so what else is allowed? Coffee, teas, anything calorie-free is fine, with the exception though when it comes to sweeteners, only stevia, monk fruit, and a erythritol. That's it. All right, breaking the fast, guys. So when we break the fast, we want to, simply stated, we want to break the fast with easier to digest food. You put your digestive system to sleep, right? That's the easy way to look at it. And now it needs to wake up. It does not wake up like that. I'm sorry, as much as you'd like to hope. I like to look at, especially when you're new to the program and you're new to long fasting, you put it to sleep for 48 hours, you better give it 24 hours to wake up. And again, over time, your body gets better at breaking the fast, but even a veteran still needs to respect this and cannot have a first meal like they would any other meal, right? And so for you guys starting this program, your very first meal breaking the fast, this is where I love bone broth, right? Soups. Bone broth is full of nutrients and it's full of protein. The things that are going to cause problems for most people would be higher fat meals, more processed. Then you think of healthy foods like a salad or raw nuts. Those are, yeah, they're great for you nutrition-wise, but they're harder to break down and process. And so we don't want to put that kind of strain on the digestive system until we wake up the system. So think leaner proteins. And when it comes to produce, think steamed and think cooked, very overcooked. And this is where soups come in. I love soups as the way to break your fast. And you continue to do that over the 24-hour period. There's no right way. If you want to eat a meal every 2 hours, you want to eat every 4 hours, that's fine. But you're slowly increasing the size and the, I would say, difficulty to digest until we get to the end of 24 hours, which should be at that point completely back to baseline and be able to eat, I don't want to say whatever you want, but you guys know what I mean. So listen to your body, because your body will tell you when you've consumed difficult to digest foods too fast for yourself at that time. If it was too difficult, if it was too early in the 24-hour period, or if your body's just too new to fasting, because I told you after a couple months of doing this, it gets better as well. Usually diarrhea is the number one symptom, but you could have diarrhea, indigestion, bloating. Those are the symptoms and signs to look for that you broke it too hard, too fast, and use that as a gauge next time, because you are learning your body week in and week out. Okay, so switching and alternating your fasting windows. I have many other trainings with regards to planning out your fast. That is very, very important. So when it comes to altering your fast, as much as you want to keep consistency with your fasting windows, every now and then, even before you hit a plateau, say every 4 to 6 weeks, it is a great idea to switch up your fasting lengths. And so if you're in the rhythm of doing 48 hours per week, which is sort of the template that we create our program for most people off of, switching it up every now and then to maybe a 3-day, maybe 236s, time of the day, maybe throw in some keto before or after. Switch it up, guys. Keep your body on its toes, and it will keep the results coming smoothly. Okay, so what does the diet need to look like? And what do we need to consider with regards to calories and non-long fasting days on our non-long fasting days? So let's talk about the calories part first. So we are fasting for 48 hours and then we're consuming food on the other 5 days. I have a whole separate training that I do on plateaus. And so that's important to understand as well when we're looking at the food to eat on the non-long fasting days. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to be strategic and prevent that plateau. And so when you are eating on these non-long fasting days, it is so important that you eat at your TEE and you consume enough calories to prevent that plateau from happening, especially if you're on a GLP-1 medication like semaglutide or tirzepatide. If you're on semaglutide or tirzepatide, you don't have standard normal hunger cues communicating to you when to eat and when you've had enough. And so you really have to put that mind over matter concept into play and ensure that you eat enough calories so that you don't hit a plateau. Okay, so what does our diet need to look like? This is also completely another topic that we're going to provide you as well, but it does relate to fasting. So a quick summary of what the diet needs to look like. We want to minimize inflammation as much as possible. So this is where the Paleo Mediterranean comes into play. What they have in common is they essentially are non-processed foods, right? We want to get rid of processed foods and eat more whole, natural food choices. The keto component comes into play. We want to go keto for the first month because everything that we're looking to accomplish is healing insulin resistance and lowering the amount of inflammation we have in our body. So it's very important to go keto for at least the first month. Now, I know keto long-term is not going to be sustainable for most of us. And so with keto, we look at doing it for the first 4 to 6 weeks, get a good amount of momentum going. Once we hit the flow stage of fasting, we can then begin to reintroduce our carbohydrates. And even if you feel like you don't want to because you're getting good results, I actually recommend that you do slowly and steadily over time start reintroducing carbohydrates into your diet. We recommend this for multiple reasons, but the biggest reason is I want to prove to you that you can have carbohydrates and continue to lose weight, and that's going to be essential for how you look at the future. But also too as well, if you start rapidly gaining weight back really fast, then it tells us your insulin resistance is not healed yet, and then we can go back to keto for a longer period of time and then try it again later. So that cyclic approach is very, very important. Adequate protein intake, one of the easiest ways to figure out how much protein you should be taking is the weight that you ideally want to be at. That's how many grams of protein you should be intaking. Another marker, another benchmark would be 70% of your total weight. That's how many grams too as well. So either one of those calculators are important. The amount doesn't matter as long as you get enough. Anything extra is okay. We don't want to go on high protein diets, but we're not talking about high protein. We're just saying that you don't need to be so meticulous, just get adequate protein, and that's going to be beneficial for maintaining muscle mass, which is very important. And then finally, the 90-10 approach. The 90-10 approach is how I take the foods we should be eating and the foods that we should not be eating. And this plays into the sustainability aspect of how do we keep it sustainable, guys? Well, part of how we keep it sustainable is having a healthy relationship with food. Now, in the beginning, your system's all jacked up. You have no insulin sensitivity. So the high carbohydrates and high sugary foods really screw you up. So we want to minimize those in the program, but you'll be able to handle them a lot better in the future. So the 10%, that's your junk food, that's your processed food, that's your alcohol. I'm basically saying it's okay to have some. Now, some of you that are really hardcore are going to want to completely remove it, and I'm okay with that too, as long as you give yourself a reward, because the more extreme approach towards this will likely yield a potential rebound in the future, and we want to minimize that. We want to go back to that healthy relationship with food. And trust me when I say this, because the flow protocol is so powerful, you can actually get away with a little bit more wiggle room, a little bit less discipline than you might have experienced in the past because of what the fasting does for your body. So planning out your schedule of flow fasting. So right now you are either no fasting or intermittent, and you are looking at embarking and getting to the 48-hour per week. And so you want to be thinking now, what days of the week are going to be your schedule? For example, when I did this program for the first 4 months of this year to drop some body fat, I was fasting from Tuesday night to Thursday night. That personally worked out great for me. I tend to eat more carbohydrates and do my weightlifting sessions during the weekend. And then Monday and Tuesday is less intake, less carbohydrates, kind of a little bit of a keto kind of transition into the fast. And then I repeated that cycle week by week. The main reason why I want you to plan it, even though there is room to argue that you'll probably get more benefit from constant variability, in fact, I feel pretty confident about that, we have to think about the practicality of our lives. Dinner, for example, with family, or whatever social setting that dinner was for you and however important it was to you, we want to plan for that to not be an issue. And so I strongly recommend with your significant others and your kids, letting them know from the beginning the purpose of this fast, what we are looking to accomplish, why we are doing it, and not letting yourself miss out on the social setting. For example, sometimes dinner time is the main social component, and we do not want to take away from that. What we want to build is a foundation between the family unit. Just because mom or dad is not eating dinner does not take away from the family time that we get to spend with each other. It's just a thing, right? It's a thing that we've been programmed to believe because human societies have always been built around food, and that's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Remember, human beings are built to feast and fast, and celebrations have been part of our cultures for a very long time. Problem is we feast and then we go back to eating, but that's, we talk about that in other videos. But in this case, we want to get comfortable with the idea of still having a social setting and occasionally not eating. That's totally okay. It's part of the program. You're still going to enjoy your family time. And what's great is to look forward to the future, because one of the main reasons we're doing this is we want to be able to have a life that does allow for social settings, that does involve periods of feasting. Christmas, for example, is probably the number one time of the year where we all want to eat and we all want to feast and we don't want to think about anything else other than family time, relaxation, and eating. Well, if you want that to be handled by the body appropriately, which a healthy body handles a feast. What do I mean by appropriately handling it? Literally, a healthy person in reaction to a period of time of excessive eating, the hunger over the next few days will naturally decrease and the metabolism will naturally increase. That's because you have hormones like leptin that communicate that and your body regulates it. But unhealthy people, insulin resistant and obese people, have what's called leptin resistance, and that doesn't work in their body. So we're restoring the normalcy, we're restoring the natural function, and it's pretty awesome, guys, when you get there, because you get to live a life that's very sustainable. Okay, cool. So that is our topic of fasting.